So it's the evening before that big 500-gallon reef tank install, and I'm getting the big rental truck loaded. Might be a little overkill as far as space in the truck, but certainly I wouldn't be able to carry 400 gallons of salt water in my Chevy Astro van. Plus I've also got a lot of other supplies in here, such as the Apex equipment and the Tunze equipment. Got all the floor coverings that we're going to be using to protect the customer's floor from the work. And then tomorrow morning when the boys arrive, we're going to take all that cured live rock and load it here in the van in the 2 large tubs. So let's get to work. So we're all loaded up and we're heading to the customer's house, as a knucklehead over there said. Water's all in the containers. There's 200 gallons, there's 100 gallons, a bunch of 5-gallon containers. Equipment, blankets and pads, tools, sump pump. Here's all the cured live rock, water containers, and a bright and early happy coral sculpture builder, and a slightly irritating and bossy Apex constructor. Empty water containers and a caravan of vehicles that'll be following me over in the rental truck.
Guy holding the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, I get to be everybody's
Worst lunch anyway, man. What time we're gonna eat?
Yeah, exactly. I get to be everybody's gopher for the day.
Hungry, man.
All right, let's get to work. Okay, so we've arrived. Here is the tank itself, which has no lighting on top of it at the moment, because Scott has removed all the previous lighting equipment, which had 6 AI Hydra lights on top of it. Realistically, nowhere near enough for a 60-inch deep tank. Inside the tank, you can see there's a return there, there's a suction, and back up here is a internal overflow where the returns are at. We've got padding and vinyl drop cloths down. We've got a paper trail here to protect the floor. These large windows will open up at some point. And then I've got equipment, hoses, and such staged out here. Condi and Reggie are rearranging the patio to kind of make a staging area for all the live rock for the sculpture, of which there are 2 tubs of power washed live rock, which some of it we have pre-drilled and pinned. This tub has most of the big center pieces in it. And then these pieces will be the ones that will be individually selected for their position. So again, they're making kind of a staging area there. Over here is Scott, who is busy starting to install the equipment for the Neptune Systems Apex. There's a control bar, EV8 or energy bar. There'll be a NEMA enclosed box to contain the actual Neptune brain. This here is the filter system and the protein skimmer. We do have one challenge already presented us, and that is the people who installed the tank have a large reflow hammerhead pump that I believe is supposedly doing about 1,600 gallons an hour.
More than that.
Unfortunately, they only put a single 2-inch drain out of the tank, and so what we end up with is a siphon, the office water cooler effect, because as the internal overflow receives the water, it can't swallow all of it. So at some point it creates a siphon, which in turn allows the water to roar out of the tank, making kind of a whooshing noise. What we have done, unfortunately, here is restricted the flow going into the tank to try to compensate for what the internal overflow is attempting to swallow, and you can see that we've had to unfortunately restrict the flow about 50%, so that's rather frustrating.
Yeah, that pump's pushing probably about 5,500 gallons an hour.
Yeah, which is way more than the 2-inch drain can handle. And there's no ball valves on the drain line, which might allow us to tweak it a little bit. So all we've been able to do is here on the union ball valve on the discharge of the pump, which unfortunately kind of holds back the performance of a large pump, but customer does not want to hear the sparklets bottle effect. Over there's the refrigeration unit, and then Scott's got a bunch of boxes of equipment and such over here. This is the new lighting system, which will consist of 6 of the Hydra, AI Hydra lights, which are not on there yet, and then 5 of the Kessels, 2 of which are wide angle and 3 of which are narrow angle, which will allow us to penetrate a deep 60-inch tank. He's got his various LED mounts on there so we can angle and articulate the lighting to whatever spots that we want to do it. Again, more equipment. I think these are Tunze internal pumps. There's the little holders for the Tunze pumps over here. Those are the AI lights. Over here are more, this is Neptune Apex equipment. I think these are empty boxes of Kessels. So the other thing is, this is our path through the side here. So anyhow, at this point, our first step will be to get the old water out of the tank. So I'm going to rig up the hose and the pump, and we're going to start pumping water out of the tank while the boys are staging all their pieces of live rock.
And as I mentioned in the last part, both Condi and Scott offer me aspects of this job that they are a bit more skilled at than I. So, what they have done to make me feel as though I'm part of the effort here is they've allowed me to plug in an extension cord. Boy, oh boy, I'm really feeling happy now.
Okay, so Condi and Reggie are kind of planning out a strategy as far as what they're going to rearrange or how they're going to arrange the rock in the tank. I have a light on top of the tank that'll help illuminate so they can see what they're doing. Scott is getting ready to mount some brackets that will end up holding a pretty slick looking light rack that he's got all those Kessels and AI lights on, and we need to mount those up on the sides inside the cabinet area.
The previous version of this tank had a handful of underpowered aqua illumination lights on top of it. We're going to use those lights, and we're going to add to them 5 more of the Kessel brand 360 lights. Scott's redo of the bracket that will support all 10 light fixtures consists of an aluminum bracing, but it requires some additional support in the form of wooden shoulders to provide adequate support to hold all the weight of the lights. These wooden shoulders will be the attachment points for the aluminum rails that the 10 LED light fixtures will hang off of. In addition, Scott has brought along some brackets that will be affixed to the rails and in turn attach the lights, allowing the lights to be swiveled or articulated in a number of different directions. Additionally, we had a shelf made that would be placed on the wall behind the tank that all the ballast for these 10 lights can be placed upon. LED ballasts do use lower wattage, but they do still generate some heat. So the shelf is open so that it will allow the ballast to dissipate their heat and not become a heat source or a fire hazard. With a large amount of room within the area above the tank, the fascia or wooden trim around the tank does define how large the aluminum light rack can actually be. With that in mind, we need to secure the wooden shoulders first before moving onto that next step of installing the aluminum light rack itself.
All in my way.
And Condi, who is eager to start on the rock sculpture, can't start his work until Scott completes mounting the wooden shoulders. With both Scott and Condi, I feel quite confident in what I've hired them to do.
Jim, in a minute I'm going to need 10 of those screws.
But that doesn't mean that they've told me what they plan on doing. So I have to admit, I feel at times a bit lost and sometimes a bit helpless at some of the processes that they go through and some of their frustrations as well.
Now I want to start there. Sure. So essentially we have a light rack, and the rack is mounted to a shelf. It's going to be a false ceiling, and the shelf can only be as big as the diagonal of this opening. So because the inside walls are further away than what the shelf would actually be, we built essentially what I'll refer to as ears that bump out the sides so that our shelf that'll hold our lights can go in here. And then we made it with these pins so that we can raise and lower it to find the sweet spot as far as the light goes. And then we've got a couple strips of wood that we'll screw in after the fact to add additional support, because we don't want the light rack depending on 4 of these little pins. This will be just the initial thing to support it so we can add our final support to the light rack shelf. So now that I got that out of the way, I'm going to wait to put the light rack in, because Connie's going to be getting in and out of here, and we really don't want the lights in his way, because they're going to hang down, you know, wherever we set it. So, yippee-ki-yay!
Ready?
Since we have already the foundational pieces, we're almost ready to move forward. I'm going to wheel this in right next to it so we have close access. Once we load these foundation pieces inside, we're going to load the pieces that are outside, and basically to have to work instead of coming in and out of the house. Less traffic, you know, we don't want to mess with the floors or anything, you know, we have them covered up already, you know, to protect them. So we're just waiting for the tank to drain down and ready to rock and roll.
Are you seeking high-end, exotic, colorful signature reef aquarium corals? Look no further than Reef Raft USA. Aside from their eye-popping colors and luscious names such as Badger, Bright Sunny Day, Copper Kid, D-Day, Menchie, Mona Lisa, Pumpkin Spice, Shenanigan, Schmurf, Sugar Rush, Sunburn, and Willy Wonka, Reef Raft seems to have every coral in the rainbow. Visit their store in Anaheim, California, right near Disneyland, or view their website at www.reefraftusa.com and order online. Reef Raft, it's the second happiest place on Earth. Geo's Reef, the fabricator of the world-famous geocalcium reactor line, has released a new dual-chamber reactor. The CR612X2 is designed for hobbyists concerned with low effluent pH. Georeactors utilize the bottom-up water flow method to capture free CO2 and draw it back into the circulation pump. This design consumes less gas in the reaction chamber and less gas in the effluent. Not sure which reactor is best for you? Geo provides several different models. Georeactors are fabricated in the USA. Check out geosreef.com today.
Terrence here again from Neptune Systems to tell you all about our latest product, the ATK, automatic top-off kit. Now I know many of you are very familiar with this category of aquarium gear, but some aren't. So let me first explain the problem, some of the methods out there that deal with it, and then I'll introduce the ATK. Ever since aquariums were first brought into the home, the chore of daily adding water to your tank to make up for evaporation has been one of the most hated and neglected tasks. In a freshwater tank, it was never a big deal if you missed a few days or even a week. Your water line was simply a bit lower and maybe a tad unsightly. However, with saltwater aquariums, the situation is far different. Because evaporation only removes H2O out of the aquarium, the concentration of salt and other elements in the tank will go up as more and more evaporation occurs. If the water is not topped off in the aquarium daily, this imbalance creates a less than ideal living environment and even can be harmful to the corals or other animals. This is where an automatic top-off, usually called an ATO, enters the scene. And there are many choices out there on the market today. Some people will even go the DIY route. Now, while each method or device may work a little differently, the basic concept is that an electronic sensor or mechanical float valve is placed at the desired water level. And then fresh water is added back into the system when it senses that it's fallen below that level. Here's our water level mechanism. This magnetic bracket and sensors is easily installed on the filtration area of your aquarium. It will even fit in the back of most all-in-one nano tanks. Oh, and when you get the ATK, it comes just like this. Unlike most others, there's nothing to assemble. No pile of parts and pieces to try to figure out what goes where. No bare wires to connect. It's plug and play and ready to install right out of the box.
Hello, my name's Jim Stime and I operate Aquarium Design and I offer aquarium sales, installation, supplies, livestock, and aquarium maintenance in Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village, Agora Hills, Calabasas, and Malibu, California.
I specialize in custom aquariums ranging from freshwater, saltwater fish, living coral reef, and jellyfish display systems. I've been involved professionally and at many levels within the aquarium industry since 1987 and have been in business for myself since 1999. I've worked for many people and some for over 20 years now. My team can provide you with a unique range of aquarium systems ranging from rectangular in-wall to freestanding cylinders, bow fronts, and custom curve shapes. Additionally, we can offer a variety of aquascapes such as an artificial coral insert, coral skeleton decorations, custom-made branching rock structures, and themed environments such as this Jules Verne version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. With today's technology in energy-efficient DC water pumps and LED lighting, operating costs are much lower. We can automate many of the maintenance features such as water replenishment, water changes, lighting schedule, including moonlight lighting, and even your general daily feedings.
I can even install an app on your smartphone that will allow you to monitor, to be notified, to control, and view your aquarium anywhere in the world.
If you're looking for something truly unique, give me a call and let's discuss the possibilities of creating your aquatic dream. I'm knowledgeable, insured, and very reliable.
My name is Jim Stime, and you can reach me at 805-241-7140. I look forward to helping you achieve your aquatic dream. So part of the Apex system will involve having the controller outside in the filter area, but we also need to have power strips inside above the tank, and so there has to be a spot where it passes through the wall, and as opposed to having to drill the hole, there was one there already drilled for us. So
yeah, I had planned on drilling through the foam because there's already foam where they ran the lines through there. But evidently they had a little hole so the spiders could go in and out.
So, and that Apex brain and such sits out here inside this nice slick waterproof NEMA enclosure. There is the energy bar. There's the actual power source there. This here is a relay that, because of that big 1 horsepower chiller, we didn't want to necessarily plug it directly into the apex. Might hog or cause an issue, so this is a special relay that we ordered. That's what's going to interface between the apex and the chiller itself.
Yeah, the relay's triggered by a 12-volt AC adapter, so we'll plug an AC adapter in here, and the chiller will get plugged in there, and then this plugs directly into the wall, so that if we tell the chiller to turn on through the apex, it'll turn on a 12-volt outlet that'll trigger this. And the chiller already has a Renko controller, so the apex is essentially going to act as a failsafe for the chiller, just in case things get out of whack or the Renko goes, batty. Apex acts as a failsafe. It is not actually controlling the chiller, but simply acting as a failsafe, and that'll be the same methodology that we're going to use for the heaters as well. The heaters all have internal thermostats, so they will manage the heat, and the apex again will act as a failsafe.
So just waiting for the rest of the water to get drained out of the system, and at that point
Vacuum it out.
Condi will vacuum out the inside, get rid of the water, some of the little debris that's trapped in the corner there, and then they'll start bringing in the big foundation pieces of live rock, lift them up over the edge and start positioning them inside the tank. So this is multitasking aquarium style. Condi is down inside the tank working on modifying the intake strainer that comes through the bottom.
I'm not gonna put this on there that tight with that many turns. That way, if you ever need to take it out or clean it out, you can untwist it a few times. Because if I put it in there deep,
And then I have Scott up on top of the tank, who is currently mounting another energy bar from the apex that will interface with a unit that sits outside at the filter system. And this energy bar in here is what's going to control the lights, the 5 Kessels and the 6 Mitras.
You could mark it.
So one of the questions we're working with right now is a 60-inch deep tank has a intake strainer from the bottom.
Yeah.
I picked up some pipe at the hardware store that'll actually raise the strainer about halfway up inside the tank, which will allow me easy access to get in and clean it out. But they're going to cut it down, it looks like about halfway. And so in preparation, I've got 200-foot hoses connected here, and might as well take this out to the truck with me. This being one of the sump pumps, so there's the connection there. So there's another 100-foot link, and that in turn runs all the way out here to the truck, which is where I have all the salt water sitting. And we'll end up pumping this salt water, which is RODI, plus the salt mix. There's about 350 gallons worth there. We're estimating the tank's about 500, and I'm sure that the rock's going to displace some of it, so I think I've brought along enough salt water. If not, I'll just have to make another trip home or back with more. The tank can run because it again has a internal circulation. It'll also have some Tunze internal pumps inside there. It just won't, if we can't fill it up, have the ability to run it through the filter, but I feel pretty confident that there's enough water here, plus displacement of the rock, that we can get it running tonight, and that is my goal, is to get it running.
You just scoop it out over. You ready?
Okay.
Reggie and I will now move the tub that holds all the cured live rock into the house so that it's closer to the tank.
So part of the convenience of doing the work will be to have the tools kind of nearby. Reggie's brought in the hammers, the mallets, and the chisels and wrenches and such, so he'll have those easily accessed for Condi. We've rolled in the large tub that has the pre-formed pieces that will start off down at the bottom. If I recall right, these are kind of positioned as to what we thought it was going to look like inside there, but things change as they go along. And he's got his music going in there, so that'll keep him happy.
We both need it. Put a little volume on that, brother.
So he'll start
I
pointing.
reversed it around. The way we had it, I had reversed. 4, 5, or 6.
Give us an update on your Neptune stuff.
All right, so the apex is all set up and installed.
Right here.
Quite fortunate they had a LAN cable out there, which made it real simple, and I had a little bit of a fear that it may not have been connected to their network, but sure enough it is. And got everything plugged in and everything came right up. So we are golden. Next step for me, go clean up some wires and stuff, and then once they get the live rock done, I'll be able to get the light rack in and get that set up.
Oh, no, it's good.
The original installers of this tank included an Apex system, but the local service guy must not have been familiar with it as it was never hooked up.
So for additional flow in there, we're putting a pair of Tunzes in there. The issue that we're dealing with is this acrylic is 2 inches thick, and they don't make magnets strong enough to mount the Tunzes or any kind of power head to that thick of material. So we came up with these little boxes. And these boxes will glue to the inside of the tank, and you can see they're kind of basically going to form a pocket there, so which we can mount the Tunze pump to. So you can see the magnet in there. It'll have no problem clipping itself to this 3/4 inch acrylic, but clipping it to 2 inch acrylic is impossible. So these will get mounted inside, and we're going to aim the flow forward, and what I'm going to do is they'll be controlled by the apex, and I'm going to set the program the on-off duration such that it creates a really hard current back and forth against the glass, and the water from each end will crash into the front viewing pane and go back. It'll kind of go up and down and create flow across the entire tank, and at the same time we've also got a reflow hammerhead that's acting for closed loop duty at the bottom. So we'll have really good flow at the bottom for the closed loop. We'll have the Tunzes creating a lot of flow through the middle and upper and lower parts of the tank, and then we also have the return lines coming into the surface. So between all of it, we'll have upwards of about 20,000 gallons an hour worth of flow from these pumps between the two Tunze 6155s or 6255s? 6155s. We've got a pair of those. We've got the hammerhead for closed loop, and then we've also got a hammerhead for the return pump. So in total, we'll be pushing over 20,000 gallons an hour worth of flow, and everything will be real happy. So there you have it.
So it's coming along. It's probably around noon at the moment, so it took us a while to kind of get everything ready, but we're now got the electronics in. We're starting to put the live rock in, so make it a point to come back for the next part. See you then.
The guy that does the electronics kicks ass. He's got all his crap done.